And uh, and along those lines, last question too. How much of an influence, either positive or negative, did your classes in writing have on you? Did you find them a net positive or a net negative? And I mean, would you recommend creative writing classes for people, or would you just say, um, you know, find your own?
Well, I think if you want to write in a recognized genre, then I mean, I guess you would say it's depending on your insane level of creativity. If you want to write Harlequin romances, you should absolutely take whatever courses relate to Harlequin romances. Um, if you want to express your individual soul essence in a magically new kind of way, then classes aren't going to help you. In fact, they're probably going to hurt you. What I got out of, I took a course at Humber School for Writers, and I was mentored by a good writer, and it gave me confidence. She didn't really help me a huge amount with the book, although she did to some degree, and she helped me. I have a habit of not putting in sensual details, so she helped me sort of work on that aspect of things. But that to me is just like a little bit of swirls on the icing on the cake, right? So they can make what is good a little better, but they can't make something good.
Okay, you don't think that, but you also think that depending on your goal, that it can actually make it worse.
Well, sure. I mean, I went through a bit of a crisis of confidence with the God of Atheists. My first teacher was an English writer named D.M. Thomas, who's famous for The White Hotel. And he basically said that it wasn't a novel and I wasn't a writer and he couldn't teach me because, right? Because it sucked like a wet vacuum. He didn't even know where to start in terms of criticizing it. So I obviously had a choice, right? I could fold it in, but what I did was I went back to the school and said, well, I've already paid my fees. I'm not paying for this kind of feedback, so you either have to give me my fees back or find me another writer to work with. And I found another writer to work with. And of course, after I read The Right Hotel, I understood why he disliked my writing so much, because his writing is very different, so to speak. But yeah, no, same thing happened. I was Elizabeth Hoffer, who's a writer in Canada. One of her books was a top 10 in '05 or whatever. She was my mentor, and she was incredibly enthusiastic about my work, wrote me the most wonderful things. And again, the same thing. She's like, oh, I'm going to introduce you to my agent, and this is an amazing book, and blah, blah, blah. And then it all just sort of petered out, right? And so it's the same sort of thing, right? So people say to me, well, why is it that you don't go for regular publishing? Is there something wrong with your writing? It's like, it could be, but it could also be that there's something fundamentally right with my writing and wrong with publishing, which is, I think, where I sort of choose to sit rightly or wrongly.
So just like we were talking about Dostoevsky and Nietzsche before, take what you can get from them and then move on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, open yourself to all forms of criticism. Whatever is valid will stick, and just but don't be afraid to just assert your own perspective and shrug off what doesn't make sense.
And don't necessarily take the condemnations or commendations as gospel.
Oh, take the commendations as gospel for sure. I mean, when you cross the desert of creativity, whatever oasis you can slurp some water from, just go do it, right? I mean, it's like I try. I mean, negative, like really hostile negative criticism, of which I've had an enormous amount. I've had actors throw down plays that I've written in disgust, saying they're not even going to bother finish reading it during a read through. I've had like people say. Oh, I had this amazing. I won't even give out her name. She's one of the biggest editors in Canadian writing. Unbelievable. I got an introduction through somebody that I knew, and I dropped off. I dropped off Revolutions and Just Poor with her, which is what I had at the time. And she phoned me and she said, she emailed me. She emailed me. She said, "This is some of the most amazing metaphors I've seen in my entire career. These characterizations are spot on. The dialogue is fantastic." She said, "But the problem is, did you like? I think I put your books in my recycle bin and then they got taken away, right?" And I said, "Oh, well, that's no problem. I'll just drop by more copies." And she's like, "No, that's okay."
What the?
And I'm telling you, it's like it's just
Oh,
madness,
that's more than
right?
mad.
And seriously, like
That's like
I'm not
really
kidding.
cruel.
Oh, it's a total mind screw. I mean, no question, top to bottom. It's just been. I mean, other people. I got introduced by somebody that Christina worked with to another agent who was like, "Well, this is pretty amateurish. Maybe when you're sort of more established in your career, we could be in touch and blah blah blah, right?" And this is a book that a couple of weeks later got an incredibly rave review from a professional reviewer, right? I mean, it's just it has been an absolutely bewildering mindfuck to go through the publishing thing, and you just have to keep going back to, well, what is your opinion of what you're writing? And if you're behind it, then and it doesn't matter if nobody likes your girlfriend. If you love her, then then it's good.